Our devotion for today follows through the virtues of the fruits of the Spirit. And we have love, we have joy covered. And the next one is peace. And I'm going to approach peace in a kind of interesting way because we're going to talk about peace by talking about conflict, the opposite of peace, and conflict resolution, actually, or conflict reconciliation is a preferable term. Um, in Matthew 18:15 it says, "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of two or three witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you, if any two of you agree on anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered in my name, there I am among them." There are a lot of tangents for me to go on in this passage. We're not going to go there. I promise. Probably. Maybe. What I want to get at is that first bit about conflict. Because we're called to be peacemakers. We're called to be people who are at peace with our neighbors, with our brothers and sisters. And this gives us a directive for seeking peace. If someone has sinned against you, you're called to go to them and talk about it. Because when we think of peace, a lot of times we think just absence of conflict, and I don't think that's right. I think if we're people of peace, we're peacemakers. We're called to make peace, not to avoid conflict. And you might say, well, Josh, what's the difference? Well, the difference is, if I'm avoiding conflict, there's still conflict there. I'm just choosing not to deal with it. If I'm making peace, I'm dealing with this conflict in a way that is holy, in a way that is righteous, and being restored to my brother or my sister. And there's a lot of actually relationship counseling that evidences this. If you avoid conflict, it tends to do something called snowballing. So say we don't have this issue, but say I am consistently upset that my wife doesn't put dishes in the dishwasher, and I'm using this example because I'm the one who doesn't put dishes in the dishwasher like I should. Say she doesn't do that, and I'm like, I'm not going to deal with that conflict. I'm just going to ignore it. Every time I have to put dishes in the dishwasher, it kind of builds up. And it builds up, and then the other little things that I decide to ignore, they build up, and they build up. And eventually, there's going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back. There's going to be something that I just unload on, and it's going to be something really small. And you're going to be like, why do you get so angry about that really small thing? And it's because it wasn't just that really small thing. It was days or weeks or months or years of really small things. Alternatively, we deal with the conflict, and I go to my wife, and I say, this bothers me. It doesn't really bother me a ton. It bothers me a little bit. And I seek peace with my brother, and I go and I show them their fault, and we have that conversation, and they can be restored to me. And we're called to do that in our relationships with our family members, with our friends, with our brothers and sisters. If you have conflict, you go and talk to them about it. You don't talk to other people. You don't just let it stew. You deal with it. And for those of you who are in family situations, something that Chris and I do, my wife and I do, that helps us with this is every single night, right before we go to sleep, I turn and I say, is there anything we need to talk about? And in turn, Chris asks me the same question. And it gives us an opportunity to deal with any of those little tiny conflicts right then and there on a daily basis. So that's something I would encourage you do with your kids, do with your spouse. maybe don't do it with your friends. That would be kind of weird if, like, you reach out to them every night and you say, hey, do we have any issues today, dog? Like, that would be weird. But deal with conflict and make peace rather than avoiding it. As I recognize I'm a little over, but this is a big passage for me. The next step is, if he listens to you, you've gained your brother, but if he doesn't listen, take one or two along with him. Okay, these two are not to gang up on this person. These two are to provide a balance and provide a reality check. Because if you go to someone and you say, well, I have this issue, they might not believe it's actually an issue. They may think, oh, you're just being sensitive or something. But if you bring objective third parties in, just one or two, they can say, no, this is something that we have to deal with. This is something that you guys have to deal with. And if they refuse to repent, that's when you bring them to the church. And that is why, if you ever come to me as your pastor and say, I have an issue with this person, with how they're doing X, Y, or Z, my first question for you is going to be, have you talked to them about it? And if you have not, that is where I am going to send you. Because we are called to make peace with our brothers and sisters. And that is what I have for you guys today. We are called to lives of peace, and that is lives being peacemakers, not just avoiding conflict. So, a little bit of a challenge there for you, I guess, this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening. Whenever you watch this video, brothers and sisters, go in peace. Serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.